This is my big Samson, my Sammy boy. He's huge and scared of everything. It's not on the needles. It's on the hook. It's not on the hook. The hook can just be wherever. In a bag, there's, I mean, if you're sticking for, I just find it kind of obnoxious. Hi, I'm Amy, and this is the HalfCaff podcast, where we'll talk about knitting and crochet, and definitely coffee. That's the main certainty, is yarn and coffee. Today's mug is one of my favorites, and I haven't had it for a long time, but I saw it and I had to get it. And I just love the kind of like the rustic look of this, and the different textures, and the birds and the trees, and just all the goodness. And of course, it holds my coffee. That's my favorite thing. So if you're new here, welcome. I'm thrilled you're here. If you are one of the maybe 30 people that watched my first episode as of the time of this filming, hi Mom, and thanks for coming back. So in my last video, otherwise known as my first video, we talked about 2020 makes, but I also talked about 2021 plans I had for at least the first several makes of 2021. And I'm actually wearing one of them finished right now. So this is the one I showed you that was the work in progress last time. This is the Cinnabar sweater by, the pattern's by Maven crafted. And the yarn is Lion Brand Jeans. I think it's in the classic blue. This was a pretty fun knit, pretty easy. You can get kind of mindless with it. In fact, you're supposed to do a purl row every 5 or 6 or so. And I kept having to tink back some rows because I would realize that I just kind of got going, especially on the sleeves where they're just, you know, so quick all the way around. I kept making them a little bit too long. So every now and then, if you look really close, you'll probably see that I have too many rows in between a purl row, but it's not too bad. It's warm. I love this color. The pattern's also really nice, really well done. And she gives you an option to do a crop, which I chose to do more full length. And then she also gives you an option for bell sleeves. But of course, I did the fitted sleeves. And I usually like to have my sleeves like long enough to kind of pull down around my fingers. Although today I think I'm going to roll them up because it's a little toasty in here. The next finished object I want to show you, I'm not actually sure I showed these to you before that I was working on them, but I did finish them. I've already been wearing them a ton. This is just a pretty vanilla toe-up sock. Got a 1x1 cuff. So toe-up, so yeah, and I did a heel and gusset. This yarn is part of a specialty monthly movie yarn club from Schmutzerella Yarns. This is her dude base, I'm pretty sure. This was a special Coraline yarn. So of course I love it. And of course I had to get it. I love the colors. They're basically kind of a little pop of pink, but mostly kind of like the blues and the purples from the Coraline tunnel, the tunnel that she goes to the other world in. So these are pretty comfy. I've been working on trying to get better at socks. I really like a close fitting sock. And I don't know, a lot of people talk about how socks are a really quick and fun knit and they knit a ton of socks, but I don't know if I'm just not practiced yet or I'm really, really picky, but I really like my sock to fit really snug. So I'm trying to improve the fit, you know, really get to know all the measurements in the foot and how even just a few stitches here and there can really make a difference so that it's not too long or it's too tight or what have you. So part of that, I got this for Christmas. This is custom socks knit to fit your feet. And the pattern I did is out of this book. This is by Kate Atherley. And so I just did the basic vanilla toe-up sock. But what's really cool is that she has these tables in here, and I'll just kind of flip it up really quick. But she has these tables in here that will help you with all the different kinds of standard measurements. And then then the rest of the book is sort of talking about when you might want to alter those basics. Like if your foot is a little bit longer or a little bit wider, or what kind of thing that you would change for that. I do really like hand knit socks, and I really like to wear them around the house. But I haven't figured out if they're kind of for me all the time, or even a lot of the time. Because I like my sock to fit really snugly, I find that even if I've knit it, properly and it really fits my feet, and even if I've blocked it and things to just make sure that it's not too big, it just stretches with wear and gets a little bit more floppy around my foot. So I don't know how to accommodate for that other than making it even smaller. And maybe that's part of the deal. So is that just something that for you sock knitters, is that just something that you that you can adjust, or is it just something that's just kind of the charm of hand knit socks? I don't know. Okay, so now we're to works in progress. Those are the only two things I finished since last time we talked, but I did start on another one of my 2021 make plans far sooner than I expected to. But I happened to find the perfect yarn in my stash, and you gotta love that. And, I'm planning two different sweaters, a pullover, a cardigan, and a kind of a vest thing. And so I've ordered all the yarn for those, because unfortunately I don't have enough stash yarn for those, but I'm waiting for them all. Well, one of them just arrived today, which I will show you. So I decided to get started on the next thing that I happen to have. And so I started this a lot sooner, as I said, than I expected. Let me show it to you in all of its messy glory. This is Frog from the Frog and Toad pattern, which Frog and Cast released. And it is a really great pattern and really detailed. It is as annoying as I expected, but has nothing to do with the pattern. The pattern's fantastic. I just find knitting amigurumi really challenging because amigurumi anyway, you've got all these different little shapes that you have to put together and sew and finish. And it can kind of be with smaller yarn, or sometimes you have to get a really close fit and you have to sew it perfectly. And, it can be a little bit fiddly. But as I said before, in last episode, I really prefer to do amigurumi in crochet. I don't know. I just find it easier to make circles, and you have to make basically a whole lot of circles and tubes in amigurumi. So in knit amigurumi, even though I'm essentially making one piece, I don't really think there'll be much sewing. There's short rows, several locations. There's, bind off and, reattach the yarn somewhere else and put these on waist holders. I actually use, instead of waist yarn, I actually use circular needle to hold, just in general, I do. They're easier to pick up, I think, than from waist yarn. That's just my feeling. Anyway, so that's why this is dangling there. There's a provisional cast on, and all those, tails and things to weave in. So here's one of his legs, and I've got the other leg to do. And then, of course, I've got holes for the arms, so I'll have to go back. And of course, it's just like, 7 stitches on tiny little, 1.5 needles is what I decided to do. So I just find it kind of obnoxious, but I'm resolved to do it because it's too cute. And even if there was a crochet version of the pattern, I think I really like the knit version of this, so I'm going to go for it. This is not his mouth, by the way. This is his head, which I will Kitchener stitch later, so this is kind of how he looks. So that's sort of his face right there. And then his eyes will go above that. And then, of course, I get to do it all over again with Toad. And then make all their little clothes. And yeah, so we'll see how long that takes. I'm surprised I got enough momentum. It's just because I really wanted to knit, and I didn't have a lot of things on the needles that I wanted to knit. And I was kind of in between all these other projects, and I just finished the sweater. So I hope that I can continue that momentum and it doesn't sit in my bag for a year. We'll see. That is in my very cute, much beloved bag with constellations on the bottom and this totally cute moon print on the top. This is from an Etsy seller called Kitsch is the New Black. Kitsch is the New Black. Very cute. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a big fan of moons and all things celestial. So my next work in progress is also something that I didn't anticipate working on or even starting. But I don't know about you, but I feel like my stash is too big. And I try to use from stash. It's just, okay, here's the story. I have an excuse. When I was first starting out with any kind of fiber art, it was crochet. And while I made, like little hats and scarves and things, I mostly got into making a lot of different amigurumi. And so in the beginning, you don't really know what yarn is good, or you just kind of get whatever from the craft store, that kind of thing. So I was getting a lot of just kind of basic acrylic, and I was excited. So I was getting all the different colors that I liked or whatever. Now I used a lot of it. But I like to use acrylic for, say, amigurumi. It keeps its shape really nice. It's pretty durable. And it's inexpensive. You can just make cool little toys. So for the most part, I still use acrylic for things like that, things that you're not going to be wearing, but like toys and things like that. But I still have a big stash left over from all the stuff that I was always making. And for example, if I want to make one thing, I buy an entire skein of, a certain kind of blue. I'm going to have more of it left over. So it accumulates. So that's most of why my stash is so large. It's not the entire issue, but it's mostly why it's so large. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to be using that for, and I don't want to destash it or give it away or have to worry about how to figure that out. I do want to use it. So I decided that even though I don't really like scrappy projects, I like that they exist because you have scraps, you need to use them. And so occasionally I'll find one. One of my favorites is the leftover city cowl I think it's by Kacey Knits. I'll put it down in the doobly-doo below. I really like that one, and I have done that one before. Most of the time I don't really do that with scraps. It gets a little, I usually don't want to make the project necessarily. However, I really like the way that a knitted or crocheted blanket feels. It can be quite heavy. And I kind of like that, a little bit like a weighted blanket maybe. So I've decided that I do want to knit or crochet. This is actually crochet, a king size blanket. So in between waiting for all this yarn to get here that I need in sweater quantities, I decided to begin a blanket. And so I decided to crochet it because I like to have a crochet project as well as knit projects to be able to alternate. So I decided to start a crochet blanket. Now I wanted to do one that was conducive to multicolor so that I could use up a lot of my stash. But where I didn't have to change, do a big granny square where each round of a granny square was a different color, because I didn't want to be changing colors all the time and having that many more ends to weave in. So I was looking for a blanket that had really big one color blocks. But what I ended up going with is one that I've actually had on my, in my Ravelry queue for a while. What is it? That's a good point. That's a good question. It's called the Fire Blanket by Sweet Crocheterie. I'll put it again down below. So she does this really great, kind of ombre color scheme with yellow and red and purple, which is kind of why the fire. I decided to just sort of tackle whatever I have a lot of. And, so it was either going to be a whole bunch of red or a whole bunch of blue-green. So I went for the blue-green. So I'm keeping all the yarns that I'm going to be using for this, in this bag that's just a regular tote. It's not really, it's a little bit big for a project bag, but for a blanket, it's perfect. So this is my Coraline tote. And it's so cute because on the back it's got the buttons. So I love this. It's gigantic and I've got all my yarns in it. But here's what one of the, I've just got my finished squares in this little baggie here so they're not everywhere. So I've got one of my finished ones here to show you. And it's really cool. It's all, it's not my favorite stitch in the world. This is all back post double crochet, all the way around, just forever and ever, and a million squares until you get a king size blanket. There's another color that I've started on. I really like this one because it's got like, you can't really tell, but it's kind of got some green striping in it. So it looks like a really blue green and sometimes purpley green in different places. So that's really cool. I've just started on that color. I don't know how many colors we'll get to. I've at least got 4 or 5 picked out, but we'll see how much yarn I have. Hopefully it will use up a lot of yarn. That's kind of the point. So the last thing I have to show you is an acquisition. And this is for a cardigan that I decided to make that I don't even think I talked about in my 2021 makes. But anyway, it's been in my queue for a little while. It's so cute. And I decided to make a cardigan for my best friend's birthday in May. I don't think she's going to be watching this, so hopefully that's okay. If you are, look away. You know who you are. But this is the, I'm just going to show you a picture, but this is the Honey Bop cardigan by Poison Girls. Super cute. And what I really love is kind of like the rockabilly look, of course. And it's got these puff sleeves. It's kind of like just a cute little detail. And her favorite color is kind of like this really intense teal-ish sort of blue. So hopefully I found a yarn that is close enough to the perfect color that she'll love it. I'm just not sure that she will like the kind of puff effect. It's not that she's necessarily a rockabilly girl. I just really think it's really cute. And then, you know, you start wondering about, well, maybe they're not going to really like it. Maybe you just like it, but they don't. I really don't want to be that like auntie that knits for everybody and no one wants to wear the stuff they make. I'm already kind of bordering on that, as I make for everybody I know, because I would be buried in yarn if I'm approaching being buried in yarn anyway, but I would be buried in makes if I didn't do that, give it away, sell it, whatever, right? So I'm kind of, you know, worried that, not worried, but I'm kind of concerned that this won't be the receptive success that I hope it will be. Is that a concern for you guys? Do you just make and give and assume everybody will love it? Or, I mean, she's very knit worthy. It's not that, but it's not that she wears a lot of knits. So I know she'll wear a cardigan, as kind of a nice, just easy cover up thing to throw over a tank or, you know, whatever. But I don't know. Is that something that you guys fret about, or do you just knit with abandon and assume everyone's going to love it? You tell me. Okay, so here's the yarn. Excuse the crinkle. I'm trying to remember who I ordered this from, but I'm sure the label will tell me. Da, 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 da. Oh, that's really good. So this is from Fiber Optic Yarns. There we go. Fiber Optic Yarns. This is in the colorway. This is, okay, well, let's say this. This is superwash merino wool, 10% cashmere and 10% nylon. This is in the colorway Ice. It's really gorgeous. I think it's a little bit more teal than it's reading on camera, but we'll see. Anyway, so I've got enough to make that Honey Bop cardigan, and I think I'm going to move forward with that, and I think it'll be cute anyway, and I hope she'll like it, and if not, someone else will, right? So that's all I have to show you today. Thanks for watching. Bye.